Hello, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and welcome to Introduction to Business. This week we'll be covering Chapter 5, Types of Business Structures. If you notice on it, make sure you always pull out the concept maps and the publisher's PowerPoints and utilize either one or both of them together as a way when you read the material to study and to write your notes in. Okay, so what do we have? The different types of business structure. So proprietor, partnership, general partner, limited partner. This is the act that controls these two. Master the limited partner corporation, corporations, general subchapter S, limited liability, and also how companies do mergers like a marriage, acquisitions, how do I get them, types of mergers, different leverage, buyouts, franchise, women franchise, home-based, and global franchising and cooperative. Now that I said all this, this is what this whole chapter. This chapter is a very, not difficult, but a lot of different types of structure I as a business owner could open up. We're going to go with the most simplest and work to the most complicated ones would be corporations or franchises. They kind of fit in the same mold, for lack of better words, as a corporation. All right, so now let's start with this. Why is this important? It's important for several reasons. If I am a business owner, how I start off, it depends on how much liability and risk I'll have to take. So if my business defaults by some kind of error, as a sole proprietor, what you will learn is one of the largest out there. But if I lose my business isn't sustainable, what basically happens, they could go after my home and everything else, or my personal assets. Now, if I'm a general partner, those personal assets are split. So I have two people, and it brings more income and more revenue into. Now, when I go into corporations, when they go belly up, remember, same logic, same rationale, it's harder for it to go under, but if it does, it doesn't really go. As a stockholder, I only lose my investment within the stock. Similar to a limited partner, I just lose my investments, but I'm not part of the company, so I only lose my money. So where you're looking at it is, it makes a big difference from a supplier, from a consumer, and everything else. The structure I have. When I'm going for finance, I'm sole proprietorship, I'm only by myself. I'm a partnership, there's two individuals. So they split the risk up, okay? So the whole thing about how you set up your partner, your organization has a lot of different ramifications, has some benefits and a lot of, and some negative. So when you look at this chapter, this is basically telling you how all companies are set up, from small to large, and the rationale and the reason is to limit the liability to the investor or to the owner. Okay, so let's start off with the sole proprietor. I'm going to go real quick. Remember, it's the most common benefits, my own boss. And you're not really your own boss because your customers are always on a boss. So understand the benefits. And when I go into the disadvantages, unlimited liability, or you talk all debts or damages incurred from the business are your debts. I mean, it becomes as my personal debts if I would be doing it. And very few benefits, limited growth span. So if I'm working for a small, if somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'll give you a lifetime guarantee," and I'm a roofer. I'm like, oh, geez, well, a lifetime guarantee, that's really good. And then I find out that he or she's a sole proprietor. How long is that lifetime guarantee? That means I'm the only person who put the roof up, because that's my business. If I pass away or I quit the business, your lifetime guarantee is gone because I'm no longer there. You know what I mean? And the same thing when I'm going for finances. If you're single, you only have so many resources. If you're not making much money. So what happens is if I have a partner, I get married, now I have more income. Okay, so now let's go for the next step. The next step is a partnership. A general partner is two or more people legally agree to become co-owners. There is no contractual agreement with a partner, just like you could get married right away and you have no contract. The problem is when you're trying to divorce that person or break up the partnership. So it is always recommended to put it in writing. What's the advantages? You have more financial resources, you share management, longer survival. Disadvantages, unlimited liabilities, you have to divide the profit. Just like in a marriage, you have to talk to your partner. What do? You just no longer can do what you want anymore, is because you have a partner. So a part of the partnership agreement is to work. And then, when you look at partnership, when we talk about the profits, division of profit, do I divide the profit 50-50? If it isn't in writing, you're going to have some problem. That's what we agreed on. If we agreed on 30% because I have no capital, I'm funding the capital, but I'm spending working time. So, this division of profits and liability, all that has to be written. And you could also write it down later on, get a lawyer on it. But you remember, when you take business law, they'll say the verbal agreement is just as good. But if it's an agreement between you and I, the judge is going to say which one is more credible. What will an average person do in this situation? So it's better off to have some kind of written agreement. Okay, so those are the disadvantages and the advantages. Now, a general partner and a limited partner. You have to know the difference between a general partner. The biggest thing with a general partner is that he or she has unlimited liability as active in managing the firm and invest money in service. That's a general partner. A limited partner, I don't do anything with the management. I don't do anything else. I just, like a stockholder, I provide capital or something to the business, and then you'll, at the end of my contractual agreement, within a year or whatever, you'll return the money or my investment with interest or some kind of it'll come back to me larger than it is, remember? So those two things make it different. Make sure you know the difference between the general partner and a limited partner. The reason you have to know this, because if it becomes a uniform partnership by common ownership, share profit law, if the business goes under, if I am a general partner, I'm also liable. Because if I have two partners and one has no assets to go after, look, if the business has enough assets to take care of the creditors, no issue. It's only when the creditors can't be satisfied because the business defaulted, then they start looking for it. And then they start looking at the limited partner. Limited partner say, I only gave the money. I didn't do anything. The thing to remember, as a limited partner, if you, for one day, only one day, you're a limited partner, sure, come in there and do something with the management, run the business because they went out of town. You lost your limited partnership status, and you automatically become a general partner. No big issue if the business is going. It's only if the business defaults and creditors are looking, because basically they're trying to get their money back, and now they'll say, hey, you're not a limited partner, because with a limited partner, the rules are you don't do anything. You're not active in management. All you're doing is giving them money like a stockholder or a banker, and you want a return. Okay? Takes care of those two. Master limited partner, just it looks like a corporation. Remember, it looks like a corporation and acts like a corporation, but it doesn't have all the rules and requirements. But it gives me it limits my liability for my personal asset. Okay, let's go on a corporation. Now, corporation, when they talk about a C corporation, it's basically a conventional corporation. It's a legal entity. It's a person. It could be taxed. It could be fined. It could do everything. It's limited from its stockholders. Remember. Because when I look at it, follows the same practice when you take business law 1 or business law 2. I can't forget where I forget where they cover it. But when I look at the same practices, because the law has to be contingent and has to follow the same suit as my regular law does in business. So if I'm looking at a general partner, what keeps a limited partner, and this would be my stockholders, from being sued or they're coming after my personal assets. Let's say I have stock in Motorola and the company Motorola goes under and they don't have enough to pay off for all their debts. They come after my personal thing because I'm technically an owner. No, I'm a limited partner. I follow the same suit as a limited partner because I don't do anything with the management. You go, wait a minute, your owner. What do you mean? Because remember, the management, who hires the management? When you look at who hires the management, when you look at the pyramid, who hires the management? I, as a stockholder, have voting rights and everything else. I hired the board of directors. The board of directors now is my insulating or my business operation, and they hire the management. So now that I still keep the same logic and rationale as a limited partner. I don't do anything with the management. If I don't like what Motorola is doing, I can't fire the management or the CEO. I could rehire and get rid of the board of directors and bring in a board of directors that have my viewpoint, and those board of directors will basically fire or hire or bring in a new president or a new direction for the organization. Okay, and advantages, large capitals, charters, stockholder ease, and everything else. Disadvantages, and this is a big one, double taxation. A lot of paperwork. I could be a lawyer. A lot of lawyers go into as a corporation, so they don't go after my personal assets, but I still have to have a regular board meeting every month. I have to do all the paperwork and everything else, and file and everything else. But the biggest thing you have to realize from a corporation, even though it insulates me, the corporation will pay income tax and a lot of taxes, everything else, to the government, federal and income tax, municipal tax, whatever taxes. But then after, when it pays all its taxes and pays all expenses, and what we have at the end is what we call profits. Now the profits of the corporation will turn the profits back into dividends, which means I get a share of the profits after they paid all the taxes, or the corporation will have the advantage of turning it into what do you call it, reinvest the funds so they could reinvest back into the organization. Okay, but the thing that happens is when I get my dividends as an individual stockholders, I still have to pay taxes on that because extra income coming in. That's where the double taxation. Will that ever go away? No, because it's another taxing sense when we go into the government. How does the government get its money? It gets its money through the fiscal policy through the taxation. Now, Chapter S is basically a substitute for a corporation, but it's for a smaller business. The government wants more people to go into business to stimulate the economy with, with the invisible hand that we learned by Adam Smith and everything else. But most people are reluctant because remember, it's a risk taking. I'm coming to open up a business, I'm taking a risk. Because of this risk, I don't want to start the business. I'll just either keep it or invest. But if I start the business, how do I minimize this? So they have different models. Limited liability or Chapter S is similar to a corporation. This Chapter S, I can only up to 100 shares, but I don't have to have board meetings. One class of stocks. I don't have preferred stocks. I only have one class of stocks that I could sell, not in the open market, over the counter, but people have to know it. And benefits change with the new tax laws. I got to be a legal citizen. So I still could get more investment, helps me get investment. I don't have to worry about limited partners. I sell kind of shares or up to 100 shares I could sell. And then if my corporation or Chapter S goes under, I only lose what I invested in it. Okay, so they can't come after my home, my car, or anything else. I'm looking at it. And a limited liability, choice of taxation. I could be taxed as a corporation. I could be taxed as an individual. Depends how much money I'm making. Depends how I'm doing it. That's when you're accounting. When we take the next chapter in accounting and finance, I'll just roughly talk about it. When you start taking those classes in business law and everything else, you'll start to understand the ramifications of each one of these different types of structures that I would open up as. Okay, so you have that, and again, it just makes it easier. Disadvantage on this: no stocks, limited life. Again, it's only as long as the limited liability company's there, and it's usually one or two partners. You see a lot of lawyers. This is a good one to do if you win at the lotto. And then you open it up as a limited liability. Then you could control all the cash, and you don't have to worry about it. Put all the names on top of the on the lottery ticket, and we'll get there when we do it in the finance chapter. Okay, different types of mergers. It's just a merger is like a marriage. Two firms comes together, and it makes sense. You had the United or an American Airlines trying to merger. Remember, if it's too big, you also have the government saying. It's not going to be, you're going to reduce the competitive advantages because there's only two players. Remember, for competition, for free market to work, I have to have several different sources for me as a consumer to go in and select. Okay, acquisitions are basically me taking over another company. Types of merger: vertical, horizontal, and conglomerate. Make sure you look at them. And, if I look at vertical, it's basically, let me just slide this over a little bit. Two firms join the same stage of related things, and the other one horizontal. Two firms in the same industry, so you have Apple and Dell coming together to expand their product. Vertical: two firms at different stage of related business. If you look at HP printers. Before they got into, before HP, Hewlett Packard got into the computer things, they're basically just strictly printers. But they had they had the connections with the computers, they had the software, they had the memory, everything else as a computer. But when you look at the new printers and fax machines and copiers and scanner, they all have the same thing. They're like a mini computer, for lack of better words. So when you're looking at it, it made sense for HP to pick up another one to already had that. So sometimes when you're looking at business, who do I marry? Who do I have a merger with? And the other one is, like I said, a conglomerate. It just doesn't make sense. The different types of operations, I just bring that other operation in because it's a moneymaker for me. The download, I'll sell it. Okay, so you're looking at different merger, and for whatever reason. Sometimes it makes sense because they're my supplier, I want to expand, I want to control, I want to keep the quality, or I want to get rid of my competitor and they're weaker, but they have a product that I want, but they won't sell it, so I just buy out the whole thing. And how do I get that merger? Sometimes you want me to merge, sometimes the marriage you want, sometimes it's a forced marriage, a shotgun marriage. And when I say a shotgun marriage, I'm looking at a leverage marriage, a leverage buyout. Basically range from $50 to $1 million, involved anyone from small business, investors. If I look at a leverage buyout, sometimes they don't want to buy me out. So what do? I start buying the shares of the organization I want. I change it, because the management said, no, we don't want this. And the board of directors said, no, we should stay on our own. But the majority of stockholders are the people who have vested interests, who have a majority of share. That's why you have to be very careful with your shareholders once you have new owners in there, because they could kick you out. If you look at Ford Motor Company, for lack of a better word, the president had shares in Ford. It was all Ford people from the family. But what happened? It got too large, and they sold off, and they lost the majority of the shares, and they got kicked out. And so, even though they started a company, you're out, and we're going forward. All right? So when you look at leveraged buyout, if you want to get the company and the stockholders want to change it out, what they basically do, they buy a lot of shares, elect a share, bring a new board of directors, they bring a new management, it has a new focus, and now they're willing for me to have a merger or buyout. Okay, now the other one is franchising, and I got 4 more minutes left, 4 minutes left. You have to know the difference between a franchisor is the employer. You have to, right, he or she has an idea. So I am a small business. I started as a general partner. I do this, and I open up, and now I want to expand my business. I could expand my business by being a corporation, and I could do. I expand as a corporation, but I also want to be a franchisor. So I could have more people buying into my idea, my name, and everything else. And it's the franchisor. So I have an idea, and the other people say, hey, I got a good idea, but I don't want to take the risk, and I will follow your model and your template, and that individual becomes the franchisee. The employee buys the right to the business, pays royalties, more than 9,000 franchisee. Here's a nice website. You can find if you got $100,000, here's what kind of franchise you could do. You have $50, here's a franchisee that not $50, 50,000. There's some new ones you could start off. And when you look at the franchise agreement, you have to follow the rules and regulations, but you have a less risk of defaulting or falling over, because most franchise, the larger ones, the ones you're paying some money to, they're basically helping you with the management, helping you set up, so you are successful. The thing you have to realize is that the franchisee could be, I'm buying into this, the franchisor. They could be a general partner, a limited partner. It could be other corporations buying into this idea or the concept. Because if you look at McDonald's has, as a franchise, they have their own McDonald's corporation that runs McDonald's own stores. And they have franchisee McDonald's that are private owners. And they could be a general partner, because 2 come in, could be a limited partner, could be a LLC, 2 people come in, they have extra cash, and they want to buy a franchisee. So, do you see what I'm talking about? Now, the thing that you understand, when you're a small business and you go into a franchise type of a setting, is that somebody wants to come in there, they have to pay you royalties and pay, but if they want to open up the land in a new area or a new thing, they have to pay for the house, for the building. They have to pay for the land. All the risk is on them. The only thing they're taking is your name, your marketing strategy, your template, and everything else. So no matter where I go, if I go to McDonald's, I know all Big Macs are going to taste the same. If I go to Burger King, all Burger King Whoppers are going to be the same. You know what I mean? So I get instant recognition. Where if it be just George's hot dog stand, George's hamburger stand, I may not get that instant feedback worldwide. But so now I can expand my name, my territory by allowing franchisees to open up. So they'll open up and follow the contractual agreement and everything else. They take all the kind of risk setting up, and I help them out. Now all of a sudden I'm in a new area that I've never been in. So if I look at Sonics, they're mostly down south. When they came up here, the people who opened up Sonics say, hey, I think we could make it here. So now Sonics is by like a franchisee, though the main franchisor is Sonics down there. So what happens is they've taken all the risk. Now the franchisor says, hey, there's a couple of Sonics coming up north. It seems like there is a demand for it. I will open up another Sonics, but it won't be a franchisee. It'll be owned by the franchisor, the original owners of Sonics. Do you see what I mean? And it makes more sense when you read it. I'm just giving you an overview so you understand it, okay? And it makes you look at the advantages. Remember, when you look at franchisees, you have the management assistant and everything. Not all, but the more larger ones do, and you should be all set. So what happens with the advantages, lower, it's like I want to be a homeowner, but I don't like to do any maintenance or anything else, so I buy a townhouse or I buy a condominium. I still am a homeowner. I got all the advantages, taxes. I can't change anything. I can change everything and anything I want on the inside, but I can't change anything outside, and I have to follow them. Their what do you call it? Their menu and their template that they have. Women of franchising, women own about half of U.S. companies, just received 4% of venture capital over the past years. Women, remember we're talking about women again. We had it in our ethics and the last thing in some of our forums, people say that women have a lot of, you still have a long way to go. And the reason for the women are not in there, they just don't have the connections right now. There's more women opening up, because some people are saying, will a woman be able to be an effective business owner? And that is a fallacy. They are very effective. They're very rational. They're very I don't want to say cunning, but they're very they watch their steps. They're risk takers, but very controlled risk takers. A guy's gonna take a more risk than he or she needs, where a woman will take calculated risk. Okay, so look at that. And then the next one, you have home-based franchising. You know, you have something self-relief, flexible work hours. Main disadvantage is isolation. Anything you do when you're all by yourself, you're isolated. And then you have global franchising, again, for the same thing. McDonald's, South Africa. What you're going to do with global franchising, you do some adjustments. It's successful when the product is convenient, high quality, and it adjusts some of the side dishes to the home countries. The last one, and I got one more minute, is cooperative. When I look at cooperative, how does True Value or Ace Hardware Store, they're cooperative, compete against Menards, Lowe's, or Home Depot? They can't buy by bulk, okay? So what do? They become a cooperative. We buy goods, even though we're independent owners, and we run our stores by ourselves, our own profits and everything else. We're not a franchise. We're cooperative. We buy by bulk, and we could be competing against each other. We have our territory, but we get the discounts because we buy by such large quantities, and then we share it among each other. So cooperatives is another form of a business. All right. So that takes care of Chapter 5, Types of Business Structures, for my Introduction to Business class. Read the chapters, look at the PowerPoints, look at the Connect, do the Connect homework assignment, look at the publisher's website, and you should be all right. So this is in a nutshell. I have 22 minutes. Everything you want to know about business structures and everything else, the main point is to limit my personal liabilities and to get extra cash and to, for a long life, bring financial resources from a corporation or a Chapter S or a franchise. How do I expand and still manage my expansion, but have others come in and pay me a royalty or buy shares or stocks into my company, or just buy into my company, my product, so I could expand. All right, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and this is Chapter 5 in the Introduction to the Business series that I'm offering, that you're taking online with me or in face-to-face. Bye.